Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who read Charlotte's Web and wished it was just a little hornier. Right now we are reading every short story in Ann and Jeff VanderMeer's The Weird anthology, including this one, Hahns Heinz Ewers' The Spider. I'm Zach, and this week I am really interested in details, how little pepperings of details can really elevate a short story from just okay to fantastic.
I'm Bob. I'm interested in spiders, Zach. Oh, it's my number one fear, and here it is to confront us.
Oh, my God.
I know. Oh, my God. This story, honestly, I went on a huge research binge, and my notes are just insane, and I don't even know where to start. Ewers had a dark, twisted fantasy of a life. He's got a bad rap for very good reason, but then also maybe parts of his life are misunderstood. But let's talk about the story first. The details you were interested in probably just terrified me. What did you like about this?
Well, I think we have a very classic kind of setup. Actually, maybe it's not. It's two classic setups, really. We have the kind of mystery novel setup of we have a kind of locked room mystery, 3 suicides, and nothing really ties them together except that they're all using the same instrument, this cord at the window. And there's this other detail which is put down, which is that there's a spider on them, which as a reader of horror stories, I say, oh, clearly we need to be paying attention to this common denominator of the spider on the body. Police just brush right by it. So they're clearly no occult Sherlock Holmes. But the second part of this is in the form of a kind of found object story. So it's a journal. So the mystery wrapper really frames the kind of found object horror. And in both of these, we get really juicy, good moments, I think. Things that make it more than just kind of like your standard yarn. You know, I'm thinking of The Screaming Skull, which was another story we read in this anthology. Very, very good story, very, very fun, but it felt more tame, more ghost story-like. Meanwhile, in this, you have these kind of details that spiral out everywhere. For example, you have an opera singer who buys the cord that these people have been using to hang themselves because, it will get her in the papers, basically. Details that don't need to be there, but kind of build out the world and kind of add significance to some of the things that happen. Or inside the journal, this bit where he's kind of justifying his reason for being in the room, and he says to the police chief something along the lines of like, the hour in which Christ left his grave to go down to hell, the 6th hour of the afternoon of the last day of the Jewish week, is one of secret and strange significance. So, the old tradition of the harrowing of hell, Christ descending into hell while after being on the cross, he's attaching occult significance to that. But the thing is that not only is the character making this all up, the author is making this all up. So it's kind of like it's generating lore in a really fun way. Did any of this stick out to you, or were these exactly the details that will haunt your nightmares?
Oh my God, anything with a spider is going to haunt my nightmare. Honestly, I got so distracted when you said mystery rapper. I just saw Biz Marquee appearing on the Who's That Pokemon, but who's that rapper? One thing that I thought was really interesting about these details, the details you pointed out are really great, but another one, and I saw someone criticizing this story on YouTube somewhere about this because they said, oh, too repetitive. And I have a great little thing. I didn't do this. I just copied it and put it in my notes. But there's this section in the story where it's just the same phrase again and again and again, because this guy who's kind of going in to see if he can beat this string of suicides, maybe they're murders, these string of deaths, he's going to try and outlive it. And he's a student and he's studying there in this room, and death is imminent for him. But he's narrating it all to us through a diary. And he says, I think it's, what comes before Sunday, Zach? Saturday, March 19th, we played all day long. And he describes this playing where basically he and this woman on the other, the window facing his window, they're repeating each other almost like mirrors. So he'll go like this. And then she on the other side will go like this. And then he'll go like this. And anyway, so she's copying him, and he says, "Oh, it's great. This is our relationship. We play all day long like this." And then the next journal entry is Sunday, March 20th. "Today I can only repeat. We played all day long. Monday, March 21st. We played all day long. Today, March 22nd. And then he just describes again this weird game that they're playing. I liked these details of repeating ad nauseum, apparently, to some listeners, but I really enjoyed that, and I found that the creepiest of this spider woman person, this person who's been killing all of these people, driving them to suicide, is enticing in a way, and he's falling in love with this obsession that he has, which I think is very much part of weird fiction.
Yeah, and I thought there was a really good, I guess we could say, thematic twist happening here, because the entire time he's looking at her through the glass, and she's this kind of like figure, but as you said, he notices that she does everything that he does. So it's almost as if he's looking at a mirror of himself. It's almost as if he's looking at his own reflection. And I honestly thought that that's where this story was going, a kind of condemnation of narcissism, or, maybe some kind of commentary about, I don't know. It's a revealed that it was all something within himself, and, just some kind of inner subjective thing, some kind of like morality twist about to happen. And where this story really, really, really took off for me was the revelation that she wasn't matching him. He was matching her. As in, all of his actions were being controlled by her. And I loved that. I cannot believe how good of a twist that was.
Twist. Sorry, I'm stuck on that. It's a web of, I was going to say deceit, but there's no deceit, a web of drawing someone in. I knew what it was going to be. As soon as someone starts like watching bugs and describing their sexual habits to me, I like, oh, this is not going down a healthy road. So he starts observing this spider sex happening. And then he says, at the end of this spider coitus, the female spider, the male spider's trying to run away, and the female spider tracks him down, gets him back, and starts to devour him. And I realized, oh no, that's where this is going. This poor guy. But spiders in general is very frightening, Zach.
Is it the prey aspect of it? I mean, is it the sexual aspect of the spider where Mrs. Spider paralyzes and eats and discards the body of Mr. Spider? Like what is the core of your hatred of spiders here, Bob?
No, that's all fine. It's just the legs and eyes. It's just too many legs and eyes. Good God.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It ain't easy being a spider, I feel. I really liked how this took place in a flat, and there's a long tradition, I guess we could say, of haunted hotels, haunted temporary places of location, haunted big houses, I guess you could say. So like obviously The Shining comes up first in probably everyone's mind, but also when I was a kid, we stayed in this haunted hotel in Juneau, Alaska. Whoa. And it was known that you stay away from this one certain room. And the whole thing was, if you see the ghost, tell the people who work there. And it was always said there's this high turnaround rate because the guests don't often see the ghosts, but the people who are there every day, they see something, and then they file their 2 weeks notice.
Whoa.
Yeah. Cool hotel, very cool hotel. But in the haunted room, supposedly pretty recently, actually, there was a guy who insisted on getting specifically the haunted room, and he ended up going through the window. And yeah, I was thinking of that story the whole time I was reading this. Tangential for many, but I gotta share some lore here.
Stay away from those haunted hotel rooms. The most haunted I ever got was in the McMinimans Grand Lodge when I smelled lavender, because they kept saying there's a lavender lady, but I'm pretty sure they just go around spraying lavender. I was duped.
Yeah, honestly, the lavender lady doesn't sound too spooky.
Just pleasant, right? You know, it's just nice.
Yeah,
it's just thoughtful.
very pleasant,
really.
haunting.
Yeah, pleasant haunting. Zach, so can I tell you about my weird delve into research for Hahns Heinz Ewers? So in the introduction, the VanderMeers are talking about, well, he might have been a Nazi, but they also say he might have been an anti-Nazi Nazi. So he's really interesting. He got banned by the Nazis. But at the time when the Nazis were first starting, before they talked about any anti-Semitism, he was into it because he was a nationalist, which is also, problematic. But he's an interesting guy because he gets kicked out of his country almost, and they burn a lot of his stuff. They don't want any of these of his stuff. This is in the 1920s or kind of 19-teens. Then he travels a lot, and he starts his vaudeville theater. Vaudeville theater doesn't work. He goes to South America. He leaves South America, comes to the U.S. The U.S. starts to suspect him of being a German spy. They try to kick him out. They put him in prison. They put him in a different prison. So he's got an interesting, weird life. He eventually joins the Nazi Party and then finds out they don't like Jews, and he goes, oh, maybe this is a bad idea. And then he tries to leave, and then they kick him out. Yeah. It's hard to make what this guy actually was thinking and what his life was actually like. But I started doing this research. There is a really interesting YouTuber named Joe Bandel, and he is doing lots and lots of translations of different German authors into English. He has a great channel. It's called Deadly Days, Tales of Dark Fantasy. And this guy is a just absolute workhorse. He is translating these works and then reading them, and he's a great reader, reading them on YouTube and publishing his own videos. He's got hundreds of videos. He also calls himself the Last Rosicrucian, and he talks a lot about the Golden Dawn and Theosophy. So I'm wow, we really got to start looking at more about what this guy is doing, Joe Bandel. Then I got on his website and I bought his book, and he translated.
Really went deep on this. I can't believe it.
So he translated 655 on joebandel.com. He translated a biography about Hahns Heinz Ewers. And of course, there's going to be problems with it, what the hell is going on with this guy? Is he a terrible guy or not? But the biography is the most interesting biography I've ever read in my life. It is the most unhinged, the most obsessive. I could say enthusiastic, but it's really approaching into insanity. This biography is by Hans Krüger-Welf, not the really evil Hans Krüger, just some other guy named Hans Krüger-Welf. It's published in 1922, and I think Bandel published it maybe 10, 15 years ago. But remember when we read, I think it's called Shakespeare by, Herder, Johann Gottfried Herder. It was translated by Dr. Gregory Martin Moore. And there's tons of exclamation points, and it's oh, Shakespeare's going to change everything. This is the new romanticism. This biography is like this, but it's someone who is absolutely obsessed with Ewer. And they even go and they interview his dad, they interview his mom, and it's just the most glowing biography while also saying, look, I'm going to tell you about some real crazy stuff. He's an interesting guy. I love him very much, but he did some bad things. So I haven't gotten to the bad things point yet, but all of these obsessive paragraphs are just incredible. What a wild ride, this biography.
I love that. We should find a way to read more Hahns Heinz Ewers and fold in this biography somehow, whether that's, we're using the biography to kind of add a little juice to our videos as we read, or, just cover the whole biography itself. I think that's really fun.
Can I read you a passage just to get you more titillated? Like a spider on the web, Zach? Can I rope you in?
You had me there, but then you mentioned the spider on the web, but go for it.
I've got 4 pages. Every paragraph was crazier than the next paragraph, so I couldn't really choose. I'm just going to pick a random one here. He says, this is a good one. I shouldn't do a German accent, never mind. These are the educational Philistines, the educational hypocrites. They would rather wear someone else's opinion than admit that they have no opinion. The large, many thousand strong crowd of readers is different! ! They don't ask to be labeled. They are all as curious and adventurous as children and take what they like. And because it tastes good to them, the criticism tastes bad. And because it tastes bad, the readers get greedy again and try to see if it doesn't taste good after all. So
I'm amazed
Everything.
at how, even though you didn't do a German accent, it was still the most German thing I've ever heard in my life.
I could read you more, and it's going to get more. Anyway, the translation is really great, and I really highly recommend people to go and look at John Bandel's channel, Deadly Days, Tales of Dark Fantasy, because it's just full of stuff about Ewers and a few other German authors, and he is really, really working hard. And maybe we'll read this biography together, Zach.
Yeah. And just as a side note, he's not the only person who loved Ewers. This guy is also mentioned by H.P. Lovecraft and his essay, Supernatural Horror in Literature, which is kind of, I don't want to say the spiritual frame of this anthology that we're reading, but Lovecraft said Ewers was basically the most notable representation of German horror fiction. So he places Ewers above all the rest in Germany. So man had fans. I'm just surprised that until now I had never really heard of him, but now I'm in. I'm interested, I'm
interested too. We're going to find out what he really did in this biography and whether or not he's really a Nazi. So that's something to keep in mind. That's nothing really worse than that. But if it's gossip about him, I don't know. I guess we'll find out as we read this biography. But yeah, I'm interested to see too what was going on and why Lovecraft likes him so much. I'm interested to know.
Well, looking forward, I'm definitely noticing that, as we move forward chronologically in this anthology, the feeling of these stories has really started to change. They've kind of moved away from some of the more, I guess I would just say they're feeling more 20th century. And that could mean many things, and I'm just going to kind of leave it to you what exactly that means. But they're feeling a little bit more 20th century, and this feels like the first one where I was like, we've entered it, or we're here. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the shape of weird fiction develops as we go further. Talk to you later, Bob.
Talk to you later, Zach.